Hi guys, and welcome to our first inquiry lesson for this week. Okay, now in this lesson you will need a pencil, or obviously something to write with, and there we are. It says here a printout or a copy of the worksheet. So if you can't print it out, don't worry. I will upload it as a worksheet on Class Dojo, so if you might be able to get that up there. If not, I'll make it bigger in a minute and you'll be able to see. You can draw out the table just here for what you're going to be doing today. So we're going to have quite a practical inquiry lesson. Hopefully it's lots of fun for you. Okay, now obviously, as you know, in our inquiry, we are finding out how we can switch off. We've spent 3 weeks on this now. We've got this week and then we've got one final week on it before we can start to kind of go through the question and think about actually how can we switch off. Okay, now last week we did this in school, and hopefully you guys did this at home as well. We went through and came up with some ideas of how we could be more efficient with our energy. Okay, now in school we came up with some fantastic ideas with how we can be more energy efficient. So obviously being efficient means using something properly, not wasting it, basically. Okay, so how can we make sure we're not wasting our energy? Because as you know, lots of energy is actually really bad for the environment, and we discussed that for the last few weeks, and we're going to do a lesson on that at some point this week. I'm not sure when. Okay, so we discussed how we can be more energy efficient in school, and these are the types of things that we came up with. Okay, now first of all, I'm going to move myself down here. Right, there we are. We decided that we can choose an eco warrior for each term or for every few weeks. So that's someone to make sure, that's somebody who makes sure that the lights are turned off when we leave the classroom. Say if we're going for PE, if we're going for break time, things like that, making sure the lights are turned off. Now, really, that doesn't actually need to be just one person. That could be that could be all of us, making sure that when we've left the classroom, we turn the lights off so we can save electricity. Okay, so that was our first idea. Now, another idea we came up with was if we see any lights left on in any other classrooms that aren't being used, now that's a key thing here, don't go into a classroom and start turning off the lights if there's people in there. However, if they're not being used and we see the lights on, maybe we can give the teacher a quick hand by just flicking off the lights. So see, there's lots of things to do with the day, and sometimes we can forget about things like that. So that could be another thing we can do to be more energy efficient. Now, I'm going to move myself again. Move myself back up here. Sorry. Now, another one is to remind teachers to turn off their TVs at the end of the day. So when you're going home, maybe you can say, Miss, don't forget, or Mr. Saunders, whoever it is, don't forget to turn off your TV when you go home today. So that's really important that we do that, because we don't need the TVs on overnight whilst we're at home and in bed. So making sure that each teacher remembers to turn off their TV before they go home, because I know some teachers do forget to do that. Obviously making sure we're kind with that, but saying, just remember to do this, okay? Now, sorry, next one. Another one. Now, this is something that we use in our classroom. Now, I was really lucky. I think in our classroom, as you know, if you're in my class before, it can get quite cold. So Mr. Cave gave me a special key so I can flick on my heating. Now, what I need to make sure I do, and the children in school remind me about this, is if I do turn it on, make sure that when we leave the class, I turn it off. So I'm not just using heating when I don't actually need it, okay? Or if it gets too hot, don't open up the windows, because it's when it's warm. Make sure I turn it off, okay? So that's another thing we can do. Another thing is making sure that plugs that aren't being used are being switched off. Obviously, please don't touch the plug sockets or anything like that, but you can remind the teacher, say, Miss, your charger's being plugged in, but it's not being used, and it's got the on switch. Just remind your teacher to turn that off, okay? So those are the key things that we came up with in school. There were plenty more, but these were some of the main ones that we discussed. You might be able to come up with even more than this, so that's fantastic. Now, hopefully you did this at home last week with Mr. Lakin. Now, we discussed how we could also be more energy efficient at home. Okay, obviously at the minute you guys are at home a lot, so it's really important that we're not wasting energy. You're at home more than you would have been, that you have ever been before. So obviously, I don't know about you, but I know our electricity bill at home is a lot higher than it was before, because we're all at home a lot more. But there's lots of ways that we could be more energy efficient and better with and save our energy. Okay, now first one, I have to move myself around again. Now, the first one, a lot like what we discussed in school, is make sure you turn the lights off when you leave a room. Now, I'm looking at the lights in this room that I'm in now. The lights are on. It's actually daylight, so I don't actually think I need the lights on at the minute. So when I first came into this room, it was a little bit darker because it was early in the morning, so I switched my lights on. However, now I'm looking, I don't need the lights on. So what I'm going to do, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to go and switch those lights off because I don't need to have them on. Okay, so making sure that you go around your house, turning lights off if they're not being used. Obviously, if there's somebody in there and you need the light on, don't then go and switch the light off so they're in the dark. But it's about making sure that when you're not in a room, you don't have your light on. And plus, if it's daylight, do you really need the light on? So that's something that's really, really important. Now, the next thing we discussed is making sure devices are turned off when they are not being used. Now, I need to admit that I am rubbish for this. I like to have a bit of noise on in the background, so quite often I would have the TV on in the background. But really, what I'm being really strict with myself now, making sure that no, you don't need to have that. It's a waste of energy, a waste of electricity. You don't need to have that on in the background. Okay, so that's something that I'm trying to get a bit better at. Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of noise on in the background. So if you maybe put on a radio, or if you've got your Alexa, you might play that. However, it's just about making sure, do you actually really, really need it all the time, and try and save your energy and your electricity. Okay, move myself back up. Another thing, just like what we discussed in school, making sure plug sockets are switched off when not being used. Now, I'm a bit rubbish for this with my charger. When I charge my iPad or my phone, I sometimes just unplug my phone or unplug my iPad, and then I forget that the switch is on. So I make sure that I turn that switch off. Now, again, make sure a parent or a carer does this, that you aren't going around touching the sockets because it can be incredibly dangerous. Now, our next way we could be efficient at home, hopefully you discuss these things, was to only put the heating on when we need it. I know at the minute it's winter, it's freezing cold, so you're going to be having the heating on quite a lot. But say if it starts to get a little bit warmer and we've got the heating on, obviously this isn't your decision, this is your parents' decision, but you can discuss this with them and thinking about whether it's important or whether you can be more energy efficient. I'm sure they'd be happy for that because they'd be saving a little bit of money, so you have to spend less money on heating. But at the minute, I think there's meant to be a bit of a cold spell coming this week as well. We might need to be turning the heating on. Now, finally, this is an important one, is to not open the windows or leave the doors open when the heating is on, because that is really wasting heating and electricity, okay? Because if you turn the heating on and then you open up your window because you're hot, all that heat is just going out of the window. So you're basically just throwing kind of the heating away and throwing money away as well. So that's something that's really, really important. But again, make sure you speak to your parent about this and discuss these key things. You may have came up with more of these with Mr. Lakin last week. If you did, hopefully you've been starting to use these. I've been trying my best to use these at home. I've been talking to my parents about it as well and encouraging them to be more energy efficient. My parents have just recently bought a smart meter to help them be more energy efficient. Your parents might have that at home. So maybe spend this time to discuss with them if they have that. And you can see why they're important. And smart meters are fantastic. And we'll be learning a little bit more about smart meters later on in the week. Right, okay, so we did this last week. We figured out how we could be more energy efficient. And what you're going to do today is a nice practical lesson. You're going to conduct an energy audit. So if you look at our wall here, we are learning to conduct an energy audit. Sorry, I can't speak. Now, you might not know what an audit is. I'm going to show you what an audit looks like, and you're going to basically go around your house and you're going to see how much energy is being used, okay? Now, we obviously, in an ideal world, you would do this in school. The children in school are going to be doing an energy audit in school. Now, they've probably going to notice that lots of energy is used and probably wasted in school. So they're going to be helping out Mr. Cave at school, and they're going to be conducting an energy audit there. Now, you are going to investigate how much energy is being used in your home, okay? And you're going to have an energy audit. So don't worry about this one. This is the one for 4 acres. So now this is the one that you're going to be using at home. So what it looks like is this, okay? So you've got along the side here, you've got the type of device, okay? So this is the type of thing that gives off energy and electricity, okay? Then what you are going to do is you're going to go around your home and you're going to make a note of the number of lights. So if we look at lights in particular, you'll go around your house and you'll see how many lights you've got on. Now, number on standby, this column is mainly for school because we have things on standby a little bit more in school. So if you don't use that column, don't worry, okay? You just ignore that one if you need to. And then on the other side, you're going to write the number of lights that you've got off, okay? So we can start to compare how many lights you've got on, how many lights you've got off, okay? Maybe you can make a note of any lights were left on that shouldn't have been on. You can make a note of that there in your table over here. Then you're going to do the same with the rest of these devices. Now TV, now that's something that you might notice on standby. It's really important that with TVs, if you're not using it, you actually turn the TV off. Some of us are quite tempted to just press kind of the off switch at the top of the remote. I know this has changed lots to when I was a child, but when we press that off button at the top of my remote, it only just made the TV go on standby. Now if the TV's on standby, it's still actually using electricity, so I always make sure that I go up and I switch TV off by the switch. Your TV might not have that, but remember, don't go up touching all the devices on the TV. Remember to ask a parent first before you do all those things. What you want to do is just make a note of this first. Okay. Now it's the same with computers and laptops. Now I put chargers and sockets. Okay, so you can see if there's any on or how many are off. Go around and have a look. Okay, you can keep a note of that. Same with the heating. It says, is it on? Is the heating on? You can ask a parent. Are windows open? Now this one's a bit tricky because you could just say whether the heating's on or whether the heating's off. If a window's open though, maybe you can make a note of that. And then it also says about the radio too. If you've got a radio playing, I know at my house, my mum and dad tend to have the radio playing quite a lot. So I know that I think my dad has one playing upstairs. My mum tends to have one playing downstairs. So I know that I've got two on. So that's quite a lot of radios on. And I know there is an extra section for iPads and tablets and things as well. So what you're going to do now is you're going to conduct an energy audit. And then when you're finished, take a picture, send it in to me, and we can then discuss in our next lesson how much energy has been used, whether you think you're energy efficient at home. Okay, you could do this with a parent if you want to. Remember, don't go and be mean to your parent, say you're not energy efficient enough. Obviously you want to help them, okay, and obviously they might explain why they're using energy in a certain way, but we just want to see if there's any tips and tricks for how we could be more energy efficient. I'm sure your parents will be very, very pleased with that, because like I said, you could save them a little bit of money. Okay, so when you do this, take a picture, send it in, and then I'm going to have a look at the results. Then what we'll do in the next lesson that we'll do tomorrow, actually no, we won't be doing that tomorrow, we'll do this on Wednesday, is we'll discuss, or we can't discuss, you can't discuss with me, but I will discuss maybe some of our energy audits and how we think we can be more energy efficient. Okay, now good luck, enjoy this. This is a nice practical lesson. Hopefully you have fun doing this. Remember, like I said, you can either print this or you can copy this table in your books. You could pause me here and you can copy the table. I have uploaded it onto Dojo as well, so you can. I think there's an extra line here for tablets and iPads and things. So you might want to copy it from there instead, or if you want to print it, you can, but you don't necessarily have to. Right. So good luck, enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing the results.